So, Mark, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Hey, my pleasure, y'all.
Yeah, I was saying before the show, the kind of beginning of this is I started streaming it on Twitch, and everybody wanted to get someone from the show, and we were on season 5. I jumped in at season 5 for some random ass reason, and they wanted Mark. And so, Chiz, by God, he got Mark. So thanks again for coming on, man.
Hey, fist bump, guys.
Hell yeah. There we go. I like a little engagement. That's nice. So it makes you feel good. So, I like one of the most obvious questions on there, I guess. For people who don't know, 60 Days In, it's a program where you spend 60 days in a prison or a jail, and you have to try and solve a mission where you need to figure out some information on behalf of, the prison guards and everything. But one of the things, the first thing I thought of what I wanted to ask you was there anything so scary, so outrageous that they couldn't even put it on the show that happened to you, where like someone got stabbed or like there was blood? Like, because I imagine there's a line A&E goes with like, oh shit, that's a little too brutal. We can't show what's about to become a rape.
I can only speak of my pod, but no, we never had anything like that happen. I think the A&E was pretty true to what they showed, minus the editing, but we can get into that here as the interview progresses. Yeah. But as far as anything too graphic, too nasty, nah, there was nothing that bad.
That's good to hear. I went into every episode, or the very beginning of every season, kind of making my own internal power rankings, where I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna kill it, or like, oh no, this chick is fucked. Oh no, like she's not gonna do well. I think that was the season where that blonde woman and her only Chiron was right-wing conservative.
Yeah, apparently that's all she's ever been about. Is just that's all she's ever
been. And like the intro for those people is hilarious, because like you'll come from someone, like yours, where it's like, I just kind of want to learn how this goes. I want to try and you're Christian, you want to reach them with a positive message, and she's like packing in her nice hair ties and everything, being like, only bad people go to prison, and I'm a good person, and so I'll be fine in there, and it's not. I think they have it too easy in there. And it's like, oh no, this bitch is in for a rude awakening. The people who think that prisoners have it too easy, they never do so well. Strange enough, it turns out it's not that easy. So,
well, I was stuck though with that nomenclature super fan, which I didn't like. But
yeah.
that was an A&E production decision.
Yeah.
So I think I would have rather been, I don't know who got worse criticism, was either me or the right-wing conservative. So I think if I hadn't finished it as strong as I did, I might have gotten this. I don't know which nomenclature is worse.
I didn't think you were going to make it. I didn't. No, it looked. You really proved everybody wrong. I'm sure you take pride in that. And that was probably, I want to say, in the first episode of every season, there's this sort of moment where you're hanging out with some of the people who run the jail, and I want to say one of them was even kind of rude to you, right? Like wasn't?
Yeah. So Sheriff Lamb, he came up to me, said, "Man, would you steal pencils?" Man, come on, dog. I was stuck as the pencil, and then if you guys remember the first day I walked in the pod, Rocker came up and accused me of stealing a pig and a bicycle. So unfortunately, in the very beginning, I was kind of labeled as the weak person. It is what it is. I know I wear the glasses. I'm kind of the big fat jovial nerdy dude. But what a lot of people don't know about me is, I served 13 years in the Army first, and then I actually became a corrections officer for a spell here in Georgia, and so I won't say that prepared me, but I've learned how to put up with a lot of crap and just deal with it. So I would say I was vastly underestimated.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely found like a niche within the pod, I guess. And it seemed like before long, you were kind of like the number 2 guy among the whites, because like our audience knows, like it's very divided racially in the pods and jails and especially in prisons. But it seemed like you were kind of like second in command of the whites at some point. You were the guy who was like, all right, guys, white meeting, let's go. And so,
yeah.
But like there were these awkward moments where the guy who was in charge, I can't recall his name, but like
Josh.
the guy who, the leader of the
Lord
whites.
Farquaad.
Yeah, Lord Farquaad, who's like a legit white. And of course, super racist guy, but he would say some awful things like to you. He'd be like, this race or that race. You know how they are. Just rat people, really. And you're just like, yeah.
And if you guys
Yeah.
saw the pre-edited stuff, it was even worse, man.
Sure.
He was talking all this Aryan German Nazi language lingo to me, and I'm like,
What was the most absurd thing you had to agree with him? Because everything he says, you just have to be his sounding board, right? You can't go, actually, I'm not 100% sure about that assertion. You have to go, hell yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, duh, jeez. So, yeah, I would say that he was very much his views fell in line kind of with the Nazi Party, if you will, if you can imagine what Hitler would say. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be awesome. But I got, especially if you watch Twitter traffic during the show, I got a lot of crap for White TV Day. But
oh my God, White TV Day was so funny.
But you got to understand, it's about surviving, and I'm sure that maybe this will lead up to Dylan, the kid that got jumped for wanting to hang with the black guys.
Before we jump to that, can you break down the White TV Day thing for people who don't know what happened there?
Okay, so once again, a lot of it was edited, and I own it. I will completely own that awkward moment. But so everyone had a TV day. We had a schedule, and in jail, of course, I didn't care what was on TV that day, but doggone it, it's the white guy's day to watch TV, and there's no way you're going to be able to let any other race. And that was another thing that they mentioned it, but the general public didn't take it too well. Is it really was a racially divided jail? It was in Arizona, and I actually heard one of your previous podcasts where you talked, and I felt some redemption by listening to the podcast. Where you had the gentleman on that had done the British guy, and I don't remember his name. I'm
Sean
sorry.
Atwood.
Yeah, and he talked about being in Arizona and how racially divided it was. So it was racially divided. And I'm gonna tell you, March Madness was on, and I wanted to watch some doggone basketball. But it was more, the only reason why I really made a big deal about it was because it was more of it's White TV Day. You had to fit in. I didn't like any of the crap that Josh talked about. Once again, I did time in the Army. I'm a law enforcement officer now, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color you are. You got to have my back. If you got my back, I got your back. So that was kind of the background that I came from. And even though growing up in the deep South, we still have people here that aren't racist. But it was just one of those things that I had to prove a point. I had to get in, if you will, with Josh. It didn't matter any of the other guys, because it was the white guys that had my back, and I had to get in so I can find information. So I think they were watching. My pod was weird, working at the prison and having worked before, in a jail. Most guys that have that machoism that they all want to watch sports all the time, but I was stuck in a pod that wanted to watch cartoons, and I was kind of sick of cartoons that day, and I really wanted to watch doggone basketball. So in my head, it was just a great idea. Hey, let's prove myself to Josh, and I had no intention of ever being elevated to second in charge. That one kind of broadsided me, but
the number 2 Nazi. Put that on you. If you ever do 60 days in again, that could be your Chiron. Number 2 Nazi.
Hey, I put it on my resume, and, and so I've got that out now. We'll see if anything happens as a result of that. But it was just one of those things that it had no. I could care less what was on TV. It was more about accepting. And unfortunately, even though on the outside I despise racism, on the inside I had to give a crap about it, because there you don't run with the whites, you get jumped.
Playing the hand you're dealt. You're in prison. You have to be racist. Like, that's the rules.
Yeah, and they will tell you in Pinal County, one of the biggest topics of discussion was everything you do here follows you in the Department of Corrections. So one thing you guys didn't really see that was edited out is Josh got all his directions. He'd make a phone call up to whoever it was up at DOC that was in charge of the white guys, and every decision you make follows you because they communicate with Department of Correction, the guys in prison up there.
Oh wow. So what was when you chose March Madness for White TV Day, and then immediately it seemed like Rocker, who was like the black main enforcer on the block, immediately it seems like he's like, you're turning it to March Madness and you're not even gonna watch? This motherfucker's not even watching the March Madness. And like he immediately starts calling you out. Were you just I would have been scared right away, like, oh no, I thought I did something that everybody would like, and now I'm getting roasted.
So I wasn't really scared of Rocker. Rocker, you saw him fight that one kid, Brandon, and he, don't get me wrong, I had no issues with Rocker on a personal level, but he didn't scare me. Once again, probably being in the military, I don't get scared at a lot of things, except my wife. Yeah, she scares me. But that being said, I don't get scared at a lot of things, but at that point, a lot of editing took place there. So I watched TV for probably an hour, and then I walked away and I don't remember what I was doing. And then of course, Rocker made that comment. So, it was more to prove a point. And then the one thing you really kind of saw a little bit of, but you didn't see the whole story, is we kind of took everything to Josh to see how he'd react, since he was the pod boss for the Whites, for the Woods. Remember, it's Woods. Whites only one day soon. And just to kind of see how he reacted. And at the end, he relented and said, hey, y'all put it on whatever you want to. And it's like, dude, why are you talking all this talk and then you back down whenever anything happens? But
yeah, he sold you down the river on that. We didn't see that part.
Absolutely. I still hate that guy for that. Scumbag son of a gun.
The number one thing was the TV thing. A few rungs down was the Nazi thing. Mainly the throwing me under the bus with the TV.
Yeah, that pissed me off.